Hello everybody, how are you? So welcome to the Smrt Live lesson. If you don't know me, my name is Nicole, and I'm here in Spokane, Washington, in the United States. So before we get started, I just want to say hello to all my premium subscribers. So hello to Daniel and Rodrigo and Fayez and Khalid and Abdullah. And if you want to be a premium subscriber too, you can. And right now we have a special promotion where you can study for 1 month for free to try it out. So if you're interested in being a premium subscriber, I'll show you the link here. Here we go. So if you want to be a premium subscriber, you can go to smartenglish.com/live/live and you can learn more about how to be a premium subscriber. Premium subscribers get access to the Smrt website, and they also get cool stuff like quizzes and homework and a certificate. All right, so today we're going to learn past passive. Yay! I know many students don't like passive grammar, but we're going to go very slowly and we'll do lots of practice, lots of examples. So don't worry if passive is a little difficult, because I hope I can answer all of your questions. All right, so if you have access to the Smrt website, this information is in Unit 3. You can click Me, Open, and then Unit 3 is called What Happened. And also, of course, you can just follow along watching the video. All right, here we go. Are we ready? Ready? Let's start past passive. Here we go. So past passive, we have here an example sentence. Our example sentence says, the window was broken by a baseball. So the blue color right here, it says was broken. Was broken is past passive. More specifically, it's past simple passive. We can have past simple passive and past continuous passive. And today, we're learning both past simple passive and past continuous passive. All right. So here, we're just going to review generally what is passive. It says here, we can often make English sentences in both the active and passive voice. Active is normal, the normal style sentence. Subject, verb, object, normal sentence. Passive is a special style. Let's look at some examples so we can compare. So here we have one active sentence and one passive sentence. The active sentence says, someone stole my computer. Someone stole my computer. This sentence is past simple. It's just normal past simple. If we want to change this to passive, it looks like this. My computer was stolen. So let's go to our notes and talk a little bit about passive. All right. So I know that we've talked about passive before. We learned present simple passive and present continuous passive. But of course, new students join all the time. So let's do a little review of what is passive. So passive is a special grammar, or a special style really, where the subject is not the agent. And I know that sounds a little strange, because what is an agent? An agent is the person or thing that does an action. I'll give you an example. We can say, actually I'll use this example right here. For a normal active sentence, we can say maybe someone ate the food. Someone ate the food. Here the subject is someone. The subject is someone. Also, who ate the food? Someone. So here, someone is the subject of the sentence, and it's the agent. It's the person or thing that does the action. But I can switch the sentence around, and I can say this. For a passive sentence, I can put the object at the beginning and change it to a subject. It looks like this. The food was eaten. The food was eaten. In this sentence, the new subject of this sentence is the food. But the food doesn't do anything. It doesn't do any action. So here, the food is the subject, but it is not an agent. Does that make sense? The subject is not doing anything. It's just getting or receiving an action. We usually use this grammar if the person or thing who does the action, the agent, is not important. So we use passive when the agent is not important. So we use passive when the agent is not important. So all this information is just general information about passive grammar. All right. So today, specifically, we're going to learn about past simple and past continuous passive. I'm going to stop for a moment so I can check the comments and see if we have any questions so far before we really get started. Okay, so let me take a look. Here we go. All right, let's see if we have any questions. All right, so welcome, new people joining this class. Welcome, Shakim, for example. All right. So we use the passive form when the subject is not important. That's exactly right, Salua. Very good. Good. And then Robbie has some examples. So someone broke my car. I'll write this example. Someone broke my car. We can change this to my car was broken. Very good. So this will be very easy for some people, I think. Very nice. All right. So good. Oh, and one student asked why I'm speaking slowly. The level for this class is 115, which is pre-intermediate. So pre-intermediate is a little bit above beginner. So I know that some students watching don't need such slow language, but some students do. So we hope that pre-intermediate students can understand this lesson. But if your level is higher, that's okay. You can still learn a lot by watching these videos. All right, let's see. Very good. See if there's any other questions. Okay, so Diari asked, what is the grammatical function of my computer in the sentence, my computer was stolen? I'll write her question, or his question, Diari. I don't know if that's a man or woman's name. So Diari, it's a lovely name though. What is the grammatical function of my computer in the sentence, my computer was stolen? Good question. So here, my computer is the subject of the sentence, but it's a subject that receives the action of the verb. So grammatically, it is the subject of the sentence. Sometimes when teachers teach passive, they say it's the object. It was the object in this sentence. Someone stole my computer. But when we change it to passive, it becomes the new subject. So it's a subject, but it receives or gets the action of the verb. Good question. Let's see. So very nice. All right. So are we ready to learn about past passive? Okay, here we go. Let's look at how to make past passive. Okay, here we go. We'll start with one more example. It says here we have active and passive. The first sentence says, when I left work, a person was cleaning the office. So here, was cleaning is past continuous. Past continuous grammar. So the last sentence we saw was past simple. This one is past continuous. So the passive form looks a little different. It looks like this. The office was being cleaned when I left work. So now we have one example for past simple passive and one example for past continuous passive. Here it says, to make sentences in the passive voice, use be and the past participle form of a verb. Past participle is your verb 3. Like go, went, gone. Gone is verb 3. Or eat, ate, eaten. Eaten is verb 3. Verb 3 is the past participle. I usually just say verb 3 because grammar words like past participle are sometimes a little confusing for students. All right, so anytime we make passive, present passive, past passive, future passive, present perfect passive, anytime we make passive, we need two things. We need be and we need past participle or verb 3. The only thing that changes is the form of the word be. For past passive, we use past be, like was or were. Okay. A little more information about verb 3. It says the past participle form of regular verbs is ed. And here are some examples. So call, verb 3 is called. Look, looked. Talk, talked. Play, played. Like that. So usually the past simple form and the past participle, the verb 3, are the same, ed. But that's only true for regular verbs. For irregular verbs, you just have to memorize them. And that's pretty tricky. On the Smrt website, we have a list of past participles of irregular verbs that's very helpful. And you can find similar lists online that tell you verb 1, verb 2, and verb 3. All right. And one more thing to remember is that we can use by with the passive voice if necessary. Let's look at an example in our notes here. Okay. So here, I'll use this sentence right here. Someone stole my computer is an active sentence, a normal sentence. My computer was stolen. This sentence is passive. If you want to include this information in this grammar, we just add by at the end of your sentence. By someone. By someone. So if you want to include the person or the thing that does the action, just put by at the end of your sentence, just like this. All right, I think we have one more example and then I'll stop and check. It says here the teacher erased the whiteboard. This is an active sentence. The whiteboard was erased by the teacher is a passive sentence. So if we want to include the teacher, we just put it at the end, after by. What we're doing is we're changing it from a subject to the object of a preposition, because by is a preposition. Whew, that's a lot of information. Let's stop for a minute and I'll see if we have any questions in the chat. Okay, here we go. So good. Okay. So Jari asks, can we say it is the subject but not the agent? Absolutely. That's exactly what the subject is in a passive sentence. It's the subject, but it's not the agent. That's exactly right, Jari. All right. Any other questions? So Santos asks, if we do need to show agent, how do we show the agent by using by, and also always only by or usually? That's a good question. So this is asking about by. So my computer was stolen by someone. So here, by is a special preposition we use to show who did the action. I believe it's 100%. I don't think we use any other preposition to show the agent in a passive sentence, but I will think about it for a moment. I always hate to say that something's 100%, so I'll think about it, but I think so. I think we only use by to show the agent in a passive sentence. That's a good question. All right, so let's see. Anando asked, how many minutes ago has the lesson started? The lesson started about 20 minutes ago. All right. Anything else? Okay, so Robbie says, if an agent is necessary in any sentence, we should use only by or others are also possible. Okay, so it's the same question with by. Typically, we use by. That's a question I'll have to think about a little more to see if there are any other prepositions that are possible. But I'm pretty sure by is the most usual one for sure. I don't think there are any others, but I will find out. Very good. All right. So if we omit by, is the sentence still correct? That's a good question. So if we say this, my computer was stolen, someone. So if we don't say by, the sentence is not correct. If you include the agent at the end of your sentence, you must use a preposition. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense. We need the preposition to make this an object. So we need a preposition here. So this sentence, without by, is not correct. That's a good question. All right, but you don't have to include the agent. We can just say, my computer was stolen, and that's fine. You don't have to include the agent in your sentence. Can we use the name of a person instead of someone? Absolutely. We can say, my computer was stolen by Josh. Oh no. Josh, why did you steal my computer? My computer was stolen by Josh. Yes, I can use a name if I know who stole my computer. Absolutely. The reason we often use someone in these examples is because if we don't know who did the action, then passive makes sense for grammar. Because if we don't know who did the action, we usually don't say. So it's easier just to say, my computer was stolen, than someone stole my computer. Good questions. All right. Okay, so let's see. Santos asks, how do we know exactly these verbs? Past, present, past participle. And then lie and lay. Okay, that's a good question because that's an irregular past participle. So lie has a few meanings in English. Lie, if you mean like don't speak the truth, like say something that's not true, is a regular verb. It's a normal verb. So like lie, lied, lied. But lay is a little different. Lay means to put something down on something else. So for example, we can say like, he lays the tray on the table. So lay has a little bit different meaning. So lay, and then we can say laid, and then we can also say lane, lay, laid, lane. But there is one more meaning of lie also. Lie can be for speaking, And then it can also be to put yourself down, like in bed, like I lie in bed, or I lied in bed. So good question. They're very similar words, but they're not exactly the same. Okay, very good. All right, so good. Okay, nice job. So let's just look at the form for how to make past simple passive and past continuous passive. Here we go. So after these examples, we're going to look at form for past simple. For past simple passive, we use was or were plus verb 3. For negatives, we use not. And for questions, we just put the subject second and not first. So I have some examples here. I put a little chart for past simple passive right here. So for positive sentences, we use subject, was or were, verb 3. So the food is the subject, was is our was were, and then eaten is our verb 3. For negative sentences, we say subject, wasn't or weren't, and verb 3. Like the food wasn't eaten. And then for questions, we use was or were first, and then subject, and then verb 3. Like was the food eaten? The food was eaten, the food wasn't eaten, was the food eaten? All right. So we have a couple examples. This sentence says, our coffee was made fresh. This sentence says, my car was fixed last weekend. And here, my photo was taken. These are all examples of past simple passive. I'll show you some examples for past continuous passive. For past continuous passive, we also use was or were and verb 3, but we add one word. We add the word being. Being. And in our notes, I have another little chart that I made so we can see this. For positive sentences, we use subject, was or were, being, verb 3. So the only difference between past simple passive and past continuous passive is this word right here, being. So instead of the food was eaten, we say the food was being eaten. The ing makes it continuous. For negatives, we use subject, wasn't or weren't, being, and verb 3. The food wasn't being eaten. And for questions, we use was or were, plus subject, plus being, plus verb 3. Was the food being eaten? So the food was being eaten, the food wasn't being eaten, was the food being eaten? Okay, we just have a few examples and then we can do some practice. Okay, here's an example for past continuous passive. It says here, oh, my face is in the way here. Let me move out of the way here. Okay, the house was being painted when we walked by. So was being painted is past continuous passive. Let's look at another one. The table wasn't being used when I sat down. Wasn't being used is past continuous passive. And that's the last example for our slideshow presentation. Let's see if we have any questions in the chat real quick. Let's see. Okay. So, in the sentence, my computer was stolen by Josh. I know who stole it, so why is passive used? That's an excellent question. I'm going to copy that question here, and then I'll answer it. It says here, in the sentence, my computer was stolen by Josh. I know who stole it, so why is passive used? That's a great question. So there's a few reasons why we use passive, but generally, we use passive when the agent is not important. Or in this case, the agent is less important than the computer. So is less important. So we often use this style for something called topicalization. And that's a little bit high level for pre-intermediate, but topicalization is to make something the topic or the focus of your sentence. I'll give you a very easy example. Let's imagine that you're writing an essay. And you're writing an essay about cats. I know, kind of a juvenile topic, but imagine you're writing an essay about cats. So maybe you have some sentences like this. Cats have soft fur. Cats are very cute. Dogs often chase cats. So here, cats is the focus. Cats is the focus. Here, dogs is the focus. Maybe I don't want dogs to be the focus because my big topic is cats. So here, I can change this to passive. This is present, so this will be present passive. I can say cats are often chased by dogs. So here, the topic or the the subject of my sentence is still the topic of my essay. So here, dogs are less important than cats because cats are the topic of my essay. I hope that answers your question. So we do this because dogs are important, but cats are more important for this situation. Here, my computer was stolen by Josh. Yeah, Josh is important. But what's really important? My computer. So I want to make my computer the topic of the conversation. All right, that's an excellent question. Okay, let's see if we have any other questions. So Anano asks, one more question. If we know who did action, we use passive. Is this insulting for another person? It could be. It's possible. So let me copy that question here so we can see this. So if we know who did the action and we use passive, is this insulting for another person? So not usually, but it could be. And I'll give you an example where maybe this could be insulting for another person. Let me think for a moment. So how about if I say the house was cleaned by my brother instead of my brother cleaned the house. Okay, let me actually switch the order here. I'll put the active sentence first. So my brother cleaned the house is an active sentence. This sentence here is passive. And if we're just talking about the house and we use passive grammar, then it's okay that the brother is not the topic. It's not insulting. But if the house is not the topic of conversation, it could be insulting. If someone says, wow, your brother does so much work, he's great. Oh, and your house looks good too. And you say, oh yeah, the house was cleaned by my brother. You're trying not to give him credit, so it could be a little insulting. But usually, it's just fine. It just means we have a different topic of conversation. So good. Let's see. Sandar Lin asks, what is the difference between past continuous and past participle? That's a good question. Let me write that here. What is the difference between past continuous and past participle? So past continuous is the name of a grammar point. Past continuous always has was or were plus verb ing. So for example, a past continuous sentence is maybe at 11 p.m. she was sleeping. This is an example of past continuous grammar. So this sentence here is past continuous grammar. Past participle is not the name of a grammar point. It's the name of a kind of word. Past participle is our verb number 3. So when you memorize verbs like eat, ate, eaten, eaten is the past participle. Or drink, drank, drunk, drunk is the past participle. So past participle is just a difficult name for verb 3. Good question. All right, and we have lots of questions about present perfect. We're going to study present perfect in the future. So a little later, that's a big topic. We talked about it a little bit when we learned past simple last week, I think. But it is a very big topic that we'll talk about more in the future. So good. I have a specific question about a sentence. We have clock was being working, but it is not now. Okay, so clock was being working, but it is not now. Battery issue. Is this a correct form to use passive? So that's a good question. So no, we're not going to use passive for this because here clock is doing the work. So clock is the agent of this verb. The clock works. The clock is working. The clock was working. So we can't use passive. We only use passive if the subject is not doing anything. So I can change this sentence to make it a little better. I can say maybe the clock was being fixed because it had a battery issue. And then here, the clock isn't doing anything. It's getting fixed. A person is fixing it. The clock is just getting this action. So remember, if the subject is doing something, is doing the verb, don't use passive. Use active. All right, I'll cross out this sentence. So if you're watching the video later, we don't think that that's the correct one. This is the correct one right here. All right, very good. Let's see if there's any more questions. Let's see. Donna Cruz asks, is passive very common to use or the active? Active is more common. Active is more common. Active is the usual style of sentence, but we do use passive a lot. Passive is used every day. See? That sentence was passive. Passive is used. We use passive all the time. Mostly for this reason over here, topicalization. That's the biggest reason we use passive, is because the thing that gets the action is actually the topic of the conversation. So that's actually the biggest reason why we use passive. Ooh, good questions. Let's see, are there any more questions? I made him clean the table. Is it passive or active? Let me write that sentence. I made him clean the table. This sentence is active. And you're right, Rosa, this is an example of causative structure. So if you want to change it to passive, it might be easier with another verb besides made. Like if you say like I had him clean the table. We can change this to passive and say I had the table cleaned. And then this would be passive. Those sentences are a little more difficult because they also use causative structure, which is something that you will learn in the advanced classes or the upper intermediate classes. For example, with Neil or Josh, they talk about causative structure. All right. A causative structure is just a special grammar when you have another person do an action for you. You don't do an action, but you make another person do an action. Again, much higher level grammar. All right. So, very good. Abdulaziz asks, what does the word being mean? So, what does being mean? So, in our past continuous passive, for example, maybe the movie was being watched. Being here is an auxiliary verb. Auxiliary verbs don't have meaning. They're just special words we use to show which grammar it is. So here, being is an auxiliary verb to show us that this is continuous. So it doesn't have a specific meaning. It just has a use. and the use is to show which grammar. Does that make sense? So auxiliary verbs don't have meaning. We just use them to show grammar. For example, in present continuous, we can say he is studying. Is doesn't actually have a meaning itself. Is in this sentence is an auxiliary verb that we use because it's continuous. But alone, it doesn't have meaning in this sentence. It can have meaning in other sentences if it's not auxiliary. But again, that's a big topic we can save for another day. Good. I had my clothes washed. Is it passive? So I had my clothes washed is passive. It's passive causative structure. So good, very good. Be does have a full meaning, the French Leo says, by itself. And that's absolutely true. Like if you say he is a student, is, in this case, is not auxiliary. Is kind of means like equals. He equals student. So is, if it's a full verb, usually means like equals or exists. If it's a full verb. If it's an auxiliary verb, it means continuous or passive. All right, very nice. Good questions. Let's see how much time we have. I think we have, oh yeah, be is a state of existence is what Diari says. Yeah, so exists or equals. Very good. So good questions and comments, everybody. So I think we have time for just a little bit of practice. So we have some practice sentences right here. The directions say, use past simple passive or past continuous passive to finish each sentence. Okay, we didn't talk about why do we use past simple passive and why do we use past continuous passive. The rules are the same as we studied last week. We use past simple for specific times in the past, for things that can't happen again, for finished periods of time, like that. We use past continuous for specific actions or for an action that begins or ends after a specific time or specific action. So the rules are exactly the same as we studied last week. We're just making the sentences passive. Let's see if we can put it all together. If we can remember our rules for past simple, our rules for past continuous, and if we can make them passive. Okay, our example sentence says, the computer was being used by someone, so I used my tablet. We use continuous here because this action started before and finished after this other action over here. And for all of these sentences, we're going to use passive. So I'll give you a little time to give this a try, and then we'll talk about each question. I'm just going to push it down to the next page so we can see it all together. Here we go, and I'll give you a little music. So here we go. I'll give you a little bit of music so you can try. All right, let's check and see how we did. So our first sentence says, last night my car by a thief. And we're going to say here, was stolen. We use past simple passive because this happened last night. Last night is a specific time, so we use past simple. And past simple passive, we use was or were and verb 3. Steal, stole, stolen. Stolen is our verb 3. Number 2 says, I couldn't sleep because loud music by my neighbors. Here we're going to say, was being played. This is past continuous passive. We need past continuous because the loud music started before and finished after my not sleeping. All right, number 3 says the computer broke, so it by the repairman. Here we're going to say was fixed. Was fixed. This is past simple passive. And we use past simple because these two actions happened at different times. First, the computer broke. Later, it was fixed by the repairman. So we use simple, not continuous. For number 4, it says, after she moved to a new city, she by her friends. We're going to say she was missed by her friends. We use was missed because it's past simple passive. It's past simple passive again because these actions happened at different times in the past. So she moved to a new city, first. She was missed by her friends second. Number 5. Number 5 says at 7 a.m. traffic was bad because the street, and here we're going to say, was being cleaned. We use past continuous passive because we have a specific time and this action started before and finished after the specific time. All right, we have one more, number 6. And this is a tricky one because it's an irregular verb, and not everyone recognizes this irregular verb when they see it the first time. Here it says, my son last April. We're going to use past simple passive, and we're going to say, my son was born last April. Bear, bore, born. But most people don't know the number 1 or number 2 verbs. Most people only know the number 3 verb because this sentence is so commonly used for passive. Because we don't usually say, my mother bore me in 1982. We say, I was born in 1982. So that's one example of a sentence that's almost always passive. Because we don't talk about mother, we understand mothers bear babies. So we often use passive for this verb. All right, so let's look and see if we have any last questions here. Let's see. Okay, so Rosa asked something about state verbs. What does it say? It says, missed is a state verb that can't be used in continuous form, but I'm confused if it can be in passive continuous. Ooh, so that's a good question. So missed. Let's see. We could say she was being missed. No. Nope, we can't say that. So miss is a state verb. And state verbs, if you don't know, state verbs are special verbs that are simple and not continuous. We don't usually use them in continuous grammar. And that's true for active and passive. It doesn't matter if it's active or passive. State verbs don't use in the continuous. Oh, good question, Rosa. Let's see if we have any other questions. Let me scroll back a little. Okay, I have lots of answers. All right. So Vivek asked a question about a sentence. Let me write it here. So Nicole was gotten compliment of her beauty. Oh, thank you. By her student. Is this the right form of passive? Almost. It's almost perfect. So was gotten compliment of her beauty by her student? We can just change it a little bit to make this the correct form of the passive. Let's see, how should I change this? Because instead of gotten, we're just gonna say given. Nicole was given a compliment of her beauty by her student. So, because gotten, the student isn't getting Nicole, the student is giving Nicole a compliment. So yes, that's very, very good grammar. We just needed to change the verb. just a little bit. And thank you, that's a very nice sentence. All right, very good. Let's see if there's any more. So how did you do? A few people did very well. It's okay if you made a few mistakes. So we're learning and we're practicing every time. So don't feel sad. I see lots of sad emojis in the chat. It's okay to make mistakes. The more you practice, the better you will get. The important part is that after you make a mistake, you understand why. Like, oh, now I understand. If you understand why, then in the future, it won't happen again. So don't worry. Mistakes are just part of the learning process. All right. So I have a question from Nitesh. Says, Rose smells sweet. Can we convert it into passive? That's a good question. Rose smells sweet. We cannot convert this into passive because it doesn't have an object. You have to have an object to move to the beginning to make it passive. In this sentence, Rose is a subject. Smells is a verb. It's a present simple sense verb. And sweet is an adjective. So it's an adjective, it's not an object, so we can't make this passive. So if you're changing active to passive, your active sentence needs an object. Good question. All right, so very nice. So we're going to stop there for today. Very, very good job with past passive, everybody. So next time I teach will be next week, Tuesday. So I hope to see lots of you again. And I think next week we're going to study apologizing and also summarizing. So that should be really fun. And again, if you're interested in becoming a premium subscriber, you can try 1 month free if you go to smartenglish.com/live/live. So thank you very much, everybody. I hope that I can see you all again and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.